We're almost there. She's the boss.
Yes, I know it. I'm more than happy.
Yeah.
Justin Green.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
Is Justin Green in the house? Justin Green.
Now we're hold his speed.
Not him. Not.
But that's gonna put our minutes off big time.
Yeah. That's okay. We have one, we can just make them.
All right. We can talk about the other events.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I thought I saw him. Just show up after.
Now, welcome to tonight's Mayoral Forum, sponsored by the New Mexican, KSFR, KSWV, and hosted by Santa Fe Community College. Thank you, candidates, for being here, and welcome to our audience in the room and watching online. Santa Fe is electing a new mayor, and these forums offer voters the opportunity to see how candidates think on their feet and what their vision is for Santa Fe. I'm Tasma McCullough, General Manager for KSFR, your moderator tonight. My fellow questioners are Larry Martinez with KSWV Radio, or Keswabe, and Inez Russell Gomez of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Inez reminded you that we would like to have no clapping. This is a forum, and if you could turn your phones off, that would be wonderful. Our debate rules are simple. Answer the questions within time limits and be as specific as time allows. Our timekeepers will alert you when you are running out of time. With us tonight are the 8 candidates for mayor of Santa Fe. In reverse, alphabetical order, here are the people who want to be mayor. Oscar Rodriguez. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. Joanne Vigil Koppler, Oscar Rodriguez, Ronald Trujillo, Jean Odine, Tara Nix, Leticia Montoya, Justin Green, Michael Garcia. Let's start with each candidate introducing themselves. You have 1 minute. Opening statements. Ms. Koppler, Ms. Vigil Koppler, will you begin, please?
There we go. A little bit of technical difficulty. My name is Joanne Vigil Koppler, and I'm running to be your next mayor of the city of Santa Fe. And I come to you well prepared. I have a great background in public service, more than 25 years of it. I have worked in all 3 branches of government, and I have also worked for 2 different mayors in 2 different administrations. Both of them have endorsed me. I have worked for 2 governors as well. And I'm proud to say that I'm also endorsed by retired Chief Justice Patricio Serna and District Judge Michael Kavanaugh. I ran the courts. I was Deputy Director at the New Mexico Supreme Court. I also worked and ran the First Judicial District Courts. And again, I worked in the city of Santa Fe as HR Director. I am also a former city councilor, so I'm well prepared to do a lot of things for Santa Fe and do them right away. You know, I came from very humble beginnings. We grew up dirt poor, and I really mean dirt poor. And that's okay because it taught me a great deal about how you go up and survive. So thank you very much. I look forward to tonight.
Thank you. Up next is Oscar Rodriguez. Ronald Trujillo.
Oh. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay.
Sitting in the wrong.
Okay.
It is, sorry, it is Oscar.
Oh, go.
Yeah, you're sitting in the wrong places.
Okay.
I can't stand small. You don't see us speaking.
Just that.
Hi, Kimberly, Goye. I'm Oscar. I won't take time from my 30 minutes or 60 seconds to run through my bio. I would just ask you to invite you to go to my website, Oscar for Santa Fe .org. Excuse me. I want to tell you that I have been talking to a lot of people the last 6 months and people who have been who's come from families who have been here for generations, and also families that have been here for only a few decades. And I hear from them the same thing, and that is that Santa Fe is changing rapidly, dramatically, and it's also changing their way of life. And they're very concerned that the city is not up to the moment. And I'm worried about the same. That's why I'm running for mayor. I know how to make things better. In Austin, I helped bring down the homeless population to zero. In Washington, D.C., I dropped the time it took. Sorry. Thank you.
Now, Ronald Trujillo.
Thank you. As I said, my name is Ronald Trujillo. Born and raised here in Santa Fe, spent 25-plus year career at the New Mexico Department of Transportation, where I worked in a capacity of things. And while I was on the working at Emmanuel DOT, I was a city councilor for 12 years representing District 4. The question that I would like to ask everyone here: do you think Santa Fe looks and acts like a capital city? Does it? It's a shame that we're the capital city of the state of New Mexico, and look at the way we look. Santa Fe should be setting the standard for the entire state, but we don't do that. I said, when I was on the council, we were able to pass the parks plan. We were able to make our parks beautiful. That is what I want to do here in Santa Fe. I want you all that live here to be proud of the city that you live in. When you drive in and say, wow, I live in the capital city of the state of New Mexico, Santa Fe, not a dirty city, a clean city. This is the promise I'm making to the people of Santa Fe. Under my leadership, Santa Fe will start acting and looking like a capital city, because you, the people here that we call Santa Fe home 24/7, we deserve that.
Thank you. Jean Odine next.
Hello all. Ooh. Oh gosh, it's a little tight. I'm Dr. Jean Odine. I'm kind of the outlier newbie. I was laid out of the gate. I was recovering from black mold and toxic fungus. So there's a lot of that in New Mexico, I discovered. So anyway, I did make it in time. So I'm originally from Iowa. I graduated from the University of Iowa with an environmental science degree. My first job was working for the EPA. I trained military in environmental fields. So from there, I became a mother and got into education. I have a master's degree in education as well as a doctorate degree. I am now advancing in quantum physics. I did an initial Senate bill in 2009 and 2013 that was recognized by the Federal Department of Education as the most innovative education program. I've been away for a decade. I have a mandate to represent the Turtle Island. Okay, thank you.
My cord doesn't want to bend, but this is a real fun way to do this. My name is Taryn Nix. I am a master's in social work. I have spent the last year researching every facet of City Hall, the votes that were made, and the decisions, and how we got to where we're at here in this community. And for the last 7 years, I've been delivering good government day in and day out with a bunch of brilliant-minded folks at the New Mexico State Land Office as your Deputy Land Commissioner. I know how to change traffic in a government agency. I know how to uproot the dysfunction. I know how to make a happy workforce. We've done it for 3 years in a row. We're the only national or only workforce in the nation ranked for government. I think big. I move fast. I think the community is ready for results, and I'm ready to deliver them, and I hope to earn your support tonight. Again, I'm Taryn Nix. Thanks.
Up next, Leticia Montoya.
Hi, everybody. I am Leticia Montoya, and my roots go back 17 generations. So I am not 50% of anything. I am a third Native American, a third Hispanic, a third Caucasian, and 4% Black. And then what I'd like to first tell everybody, thank you for being here today. This is very an honor to be in front of you. And I'd like to thank one person that's always backed me, my husband. We've been married for 35 years. He's a disabled veteran. I'm a mother and a grandmother. And I started this journey 4 years ago with a contract I got from the city, which is the shopping carts. And what that did is that opened up my eyes to understand what is going on in our community. And that'll lead me into my background. I have a degree in mathematics with a minor in computer science. I have a master's in education. I worked for TRW as an engineer to develop a system for the government. I own a company, Assure, that we sold. I own a company for Nebula Advisors. Thank you.
Justin Green.
Good evening. Everyone in this room knows that Santa Fe is at a crossroads. We've been off track for a few years now, and we need to get back on track. My name is Justin Green, and I'm running for mayor of Santa Fe. I'm currently a Santa Fe County Commissioner. I'm a trained architect, and I'm a small business owner here in Santa Fe. So as a county commissioner, I've worked on affordable housing issues and worked with the federal government and our state legislature on issues that seemed impossible to solve, and I was able to solve them through negotiation and partnership and collaboration. As an architect, I was an early planner of the rail yards back 27 years ago. And then as a small business owner, I have a national leading company on best practices, but that's focused on hyper-local marketing for the community. I'm somebody that's known how to get stuff done. That is the campaign theme of my campaign here and will be my administration. Once again, my name is Justin Green. I hope to hear your vote, and I look forward to talking to you today. Thank you.
Up next, Michael Garcia.
Good afternoon, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Michael Garcia, and a quick little info about me. I grew up here in Santa Fe, and then upon graduating from high school, I moved down just the road to Albuquerque for my undergraduate and graduate studies. Got a BA in political science and a master's degree in public administration. After finishing up school, I began to work for the federal government. I currently work for a smaller agency called AmeriCorps. Been doing that for about 15 years now. I'm also a city councilor. I'm in my second year, second term, and it's one of the proudest things I've done. I'm proud of the record I have as a city councilor, and I'm proud to work for you. My priorities as mayor ultimately are to work on issues such as affordable housing, public safety, improving basic city services, and modernizing government. And so I look forward to a spirited conversation with everybody this evening. And if for some reason your questions aren't answered, please pull me aside after. I'm always happy to have a conversation with you.
Question 1. Citizens have complained for years, months, days, that the city is too noisy, drivers are speeding, and red light runners are endangering others. As mayor, do you pledge to get speed and noise cameras up and running? How soon? And you have 1 minute. And let us start with Oscar.
Very good. So now I can stand. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Everywhere you go, there's loud mufflers, and there's a lot of speeding that goes on. I have kids. I have family that transit throughout the city, and I do fear for them. Frankly, I fear for myself as well. And so, yes, indeed, we will have those speed cameras up as soon as possible. It's a problem of procurement. Like a lot of things with the city, they aren't working really well. The city was just not able to execute that. They passed the budget for that. It got approved. The city staff just has not been able to execute. And that's among the things that I am an expert at.
Next, Ronald.
Most definitely. When I was on the city council, I initiated the STOP program, which was the red light runners throughout the city. We had speed cameras throughout the city, and unfortunately they went away. And it was something that I had seen going on for years. Some people think that their time is more important than yours. So they just zoom through red lights, and that was wrong. I said, as to what's happening with our mufflers and all that is a shame. I mean, I live in the Bellum area, and me and my wife, we hear it every night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, all down Siringo Road and all down Cerrillos Road and Rodeo Road. This has got to stop. And the way that we're going to do that is by patrolling. You know, we have said we need more police officers in this community, and that's one thing we will be doing. We'll be hiring more police officers, and we'll make sure that we target these places where we know that there are, red light runners and speeders. You know, if you break the law, you're going to pay the price. You're going to respect the people that live here, and you're going to respect the streets that you drive on.
Jean.
The city council guys seem more with it.
Hello, everyone. I come returning back to Santa Fe in 2023 and definitely aware of the noise and the speeding as well. I have with me is an infrastructure and development platform that's funded. Think of it as a philanthropic thing. So I plan to meet with the police chief, see how we can double the police force, how we can actually get the speed and the noise installed and have it enforced as well. I had a wonderful meeting with the city manager, Mark Scott. We both are from Iowa. I just had it this afternoon. And with the funding, as an elected mayor, I could start rolling out the funding and deal with the encumbered budget, that we could actually fund things, and that's been stalled for years and years, just like the noise and the thing. So that could get going, and that you won't be encumbered with taxes as you have been. Okay, thank you.
Taryn.
I just don't know. It's like hot potato. Who's she going to call? I think it's really hard to enforce any kind of laws when you only have 3 to 7 cops like actually patrolling in our neighborhoods, enforcing our traffic code. So, we do have a problem. If you compare us to the next closest capital city, which is Albany, New York, we not only have a third of the cops that they have on the streets, they have really prioritized it in their budget. We invest 9% of our budget in public safety. They invest 31%. We have few thousand violent crimes a year. They have a few hundred. We're not prioritizing public safety. We're not prioritizing community involvement in that communication. We also need oversight. They also spend millions in communication just on public safety measures and initiatives. We need more cops. We need triple the amount of alternative response units. We need to allow them to do the job that they're supposed to do, which is also be in our community dealing with our mental health and drug crisis. Speed cameras are great while we get that under wraps, but.
Letitia.
Okay, yes, I did the research on that, and what we need to do is, it has been passed, so we need to implement it. And the thing about it, how do we enforce it? Well, one on my platform is we're going to put in substations throughout the city, because then that'll hold our officers in certain areas. So when something does happen and those cameras do show that there is noise pollution, they're going to have to go and find out who it is. But the thing about it, if we don't have the resources and the locations, it's not going to work. So let's look at how we can implement these substations with the fire stations, because they're already there. So, and I've even talked to officers, and they said that that's an awesome idea, because then now they're not everywhere. They're set in one location, only unless there's a major call that they will go to that scene. So that's it. Thank you.
Justin.
Thanks. Yes, hello. So thank you very much. So speed cameras and noise are the, to break down on the noise is the solution. So why don't we have these? It's not necessarily procurement, but procurement is broken. It's because the ordinance is not in place to actually arrest people or to confiscate or to ticket these folks. We passed a noise speed camera ordinance years ago. That's in place, so we could put speed cameras back up right now. But the noise cameras are not allowed yet. And so this is one of the aspects that our current administration hasn't prioritized by pushing this through legal to make sure that we actually have an enforceable ordinance there. We need enforcement as well. It's not good enough to have more cops if you can't enforce your laws. That is part of my 10-point public safety plan, and I encourage you to go look at it over at justingreen.com. It's more than just more cops. Thank you.
Michael?
And so as a city councilor, this has been one of my priority issues. I've been working with a community group called Stop Aggressive Driving, and we've worked to get over $1 million allocated for speed and noise cameras. So it's coming. It's just that we've got to go through that bureaucratic RFP process. Now, it doesn't stop there. It also begins with enforcement. I do want to correct the record. We do have an ordinance on the books, a noise ordinance on the books. Police officers can begin to enforce this right now. What's happening is it's not being enforced. So we need to ensure that enforcement is key. We need to ensure we have technology to support the laws we have in place. And it doesn't stop there with the speed and noise, because we also have a lot of folks that are illegally racing cars. Just a few weeks ago, I was getting out of a city council meeting, and there was a group of young folks racing up and down Lincoln Avenue. That should not take place in our city. Thankfully, myself and a co-councilor called the police, and they quickly responded, and folks dispersed. But this happens all over our city.
Joanne.
Thank you. Absolutely. We need to enforce the speed and the noise ordinances. And Councilor Garcia is correct that those are there, they're ready, and we do have the equipment. I've spoken to the police chief. It just needs a bureaucratic overview. And that's one of the things I intend to stop is get rid of the tons of bureaucracy that we have in the city that makes things take so long. Crime and public safety are my number one priority. And there's no reason why we have to continue to live in the wild, wild west. There's no reason why we have to be a lawless city. I'm so tired of it, and I'm tired of everything taking so long. We have a big crime problem here. We don't have enough officers. We have poor leadership at the top. All of those things contribute to what we're going through right now, and that will change under my direction. That will definitely change when I'm mayor. The officers' morale has never been at an all-time low as it is now. And this comes from them. This is what they tell me. They're not allowed to do their job, not allowed to enforce the laws.
Thank you, candidates. Question number 2 is also related to the issue of public safety. And I know it's going to sound like a series of questions, and some of you have already addressed some of those issues, but what policies do you support that would encourage first responders to live in Santa Fe rather than Rio Rancho or Albuquerque? And can we get police officers back to Santa Fe? You have 1 minute to respond, and we start off with Ronald Trujillo.
You know, that has been an issue we've been having for many years. You know, our police officers work here in Santa Fe, but they live in Rio Rancho and other outlying cities. When we were on the council, we had tried to see if we could purchase houses so we could put our police officers in there to live for a couple of years so they'd be able to raise a little bit of money so they could purchase a house here. You know, so I definitely want to look at that again. I also want to start bringing back police officers in the schools, police officers in the parks living there. It makes our parks more safer, and it also helps out the schools. So what I want to do is I want to have MOUs between the schools so we can do that. You know, it's important that we keep our officers here, but again, too, it just isn't about keeping our officers here. You have to look at the school system and all that. So one thing I will be very directive is I want to have constant talks with our schools, our county, our state as to why aren't we able to, you know, keep our officers here? What is needed? You know, that is one thing I will do is I will sit down, we'll bring the stakeholders to the table, and we'll have those discussions because it's imperative. We'd love to have our police officers living here, and I hope that we can do that.
Gene, Gene is next, right?
Yes. Actually, I'd love to tell you more about my funding, but right now it's philanthropic. With this funding, we plan to build 1,000 affordable Adobe homes for the first responders, for the teachers, for the essential workers. We're looking at proposing in the Midtown development and also use the elementary schools that are closed and have it rezoned for affordable housing rather than commercial, and build another boutique hotel, which what happened to the Alrod. So the combination is, I'm a systems thinker, so what we've got to do is definitely if we can hire more police force, but then provide the affordable housing. So they are present. I am aware in talking with several people that are commuting from Rio Rancho, they prefer Rio Rancho for the education, for the family friendly. So that's another key thing is to actually work with the sports complex and parks as well.
Taryn is next.
So I think it's interesting that we actually incentivize in our policies right now for our cops not to live here. We pay them to drive from other places. Why would you live here if you don't have to and you get paid not to? You know, I like to compare because I think it's important that we are competitive with other markets. You know, when we think about what the actual cost of living here is in Santa Fe, it's really close to Houston, Texas. I know that sounds crazy given their size, but when we talk about how much they pay their cops, they pay $6,000 more for entry level and give bonuses every year that they stay on, plus hazard pay and other perks that we don't do right now, that we could to entice people to actually come to the community. You know, last year they tried to expand the down payment assistance program to first responders and never got it off the ground. I'm going to get it off the ground day one when I'm in office. I see no reason why our first responders and our people most vulnerable should not have the same access that our non-union City Hall staff have. It is imperative. And
Okay, Leticia, you're next.
Okay, this is a question that's been asked to me many times. And the way we're going to get the first responders to live in Santa Fe is we have to make affordable homes. Because right now, there's not any. And people can tell you they're not. So for them to be affordable, they need to also have to be able to be a part of programs that they do a down payment for them. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to raise the AMI level to an area where it includes, we're going to increase it to 120. And what happens, these numbers may be like, you don't understand it, but it's based upon your income. So the higher we increase it, that means these people can afford for these programs, will qualify for the programs, and will be able to afford affordable housing when we get it. And that'll happen when we develop our city land into 100% affordable for our first responders and people that live here, and to keep our children here as well.
Justin, you are next.
Thanks. I love this question for a variety of reasons. First, as an architect, housing is core to my platform and the success of our city. So we need to work on this, and we've been working on it at Santa Fe County. We have a project called Strategic Housing. We call it Strategic Housing. As you drove here, you drove through Rancho Viejo. The developer of Rancho Viejo is actually a partner with Santa Fe County to start to work on this. It's in a pilot project stage, but it is in its early stages, and he understood this need to attract our officers to live here. I have a 10-point plan. Yesterday, I sat with the chief of police for almost 2 hours to go over my 10-point plan and got feedback from him about this. Some things he agreed with, some things he thought were already starting to happen but weren't in the light of day. We are making progress here, but we have to make a lot more progress. Under my leadership, we will get things done, like the ordinance for the noise cameras. We will get strategic housing built so that we can have our officers living here in our community. Thank you.
Michael, you are next.
One of the first things I'll do as mayor is begin to ensure that we provide housing stipends for our officers that actually want to live here in the city. We provide incentives for officers to drive their vehicles to Rio Rancho, Pecos, wherever. They need to be provided that same incentive to live here. In addition to that, we need to begin to use city land to develop housing. That's one of the biggest resources that the city has. And so my commitment is to begin to develop affordable housing for our officers. Now, as mentioned, raising the AMI to 120%. My goal is to raise it to 150%. 120% means a family of four would qualify for $105,000 would qualify for affordable housing. Bringing it up to 150 would mean a family of four could make up to 130 and still qualify. Reason why 150 is we have a state affordable housing state trust fund that allows for us to reach that cap. We need to begin to incentivize officers to live here and not move away, and housing is key.
Joanne, you are next.
Thank you. Oh.
No.
Okay, maybe we'll duke it out. All right. Well, first of all, we do need housing, and I think the city needs to get off the dime and finish the housing projects that we have on the books right now. What about Phase 3 Terra Contenta? That's been there forever. What about Midtown? There's supposed to be affordable housing there. We haven't done hardly a thing there. So, you know, there is and there will be housing. We need to figure out ways that we can recruit and retain our officers to give them a wage so they can live here. We need to go back to when we did have officers live in the parks. Some of them really liked that, some of them didn't. But next thing we need to do is ask the officers, what do they want? You can't impose something on them, but I think that if they were given the option, many of them would choose that. It's important to give them the option. It's important to make this a priority. And so we also have to be cognizant of the union contracts and see what they want in those contracts as well. Nobody talks too much about that.
Thank you. Now, Oscar, you are next.
Ahora sí. Very good. When I was the city manager in Taos, we used to pay our officers to travel even 100 miles away from Taos. And when I was leaving, they were pushing for that to be even further away. So there were people that were commuting even from Rio Rancho to go to Taos, and that was because we didn't have housing, and the city was greatly was gentrifying, and so prices were going up. And if we don't correct in Santa Fe, we will be like that. We will be like that pretty soon, and there won't be a way that we could even incentivize them to come into Taos, live in Santa Fe, because we won't have the housing stock for that to happen. So the city needs to lean a lot more into the housing market. We can't be passive anymore. That's what we've been trying up until now. And as a result, we're in a great big deficit. Our kids can't afford to live here. And the workforce, like our police officers, can't afford to live here either. So that needs to change. And by the way, you don't just say change it. You have to. It takes a lot of skill to do that.
We're still going to talk a little bit about public safety. This time it's about considering the challenge of relieving homelessness in Santa Fe. Several of you have discussed the need for expanded services, including a new campus-style shelter, but that takes years. What will happen over the next 24 months or so to expand services and to relieve the problems that neighbors have faced because of homelessness in their areas? You have 1 minute, and Gino Dean, you're first up on this.
With the philanthropic funding, we already have the plans to build a recovery clinic as well as a residential house, brand new, gated, so it's not the squalor of Pete's Place. And also with my education and workforce development, we plan to integrate workforce development. So a lot of the issues with the parks and the playgrounds, with the hypodermic needles, the homeless could be trained to be landscapers, caretakers, and actually take care of the parks as well. But we can't just have them living in Section 8 housing and dealing with fentanyl and panhandling. So we've got to integrate workforce development and get them working. But the key thing is a separate recovery clinic as well as the residential house. Thank you.
Okay, Taryn Nix.
So this administration and our council have saddled us with contracts, millions of dollars of contracts that we really can't get out of for a couple of years. That is unfortunate. And while I hope that lawyers can figure out a way around it, we are a little bit locked in. I do think it's important for us to go back to our faith-based community partners and mea culpa a little bit, also ask for their help in safe spaces and in building out of quick infrastructure. We have the Juvenile Justice Center in the county that can be utilized very quickly for a mental health facility. We need beds. We have no beds. If you want to talk about getting people off the street really quickly that need to get off the street, that's how we do it. I plan on doing emergency action within the first 30 days on the one stop and bringing you a bond for the money that I can't find. So we're going to move, and we're going to move quick, if I'm mayor. Thanks.
Letitia Montoya.
Okay, yes, it is a problem. I do the shopping carts for the city, and I understand, and we've been doing this for 4 years. And the thing that we need to do is, how come we haven't tapped into the opioid money, the lawsuit money? How come we haven't used the marijuana tax money? Those we could use for the facilities that we want to generate. And the thing about it is that we use the existing shelters that we have now. Why invent the wheel? Add on more to their services and make them more long-term stays instead of short-term. And then we come up and we start building the projects that we are going to be facilitating throughout Santa Fe that will house these individuals. And I even talked to the community college last year, and they said, come to me when you're mayor and let's come up with a plan, because we have the resources and the land. So people are willing to do it. I thank you.
Justin Green.
Great. So the one-door campus is actually the solution and that we need here. This is the explanation of this is it has overnight shelter services, and then within a confine, a gated community, it has wraparound services. This is drug treatment, this is mental health care, this is job training and medical care that offer folks that are needing these support services to get the time and safety of a safe space to get on their feet and get back into permanent supportive housing. That's the model. Now, the model is going to take a little bit of time, as was mentioned there, so that's true. But there are some buildings that are easier to convert, and so we can identify those buildings and potentially get one of these centers up and running in about 18 months. As a county commissioner, I started studying this about a year and a half ago, and I brought together the city, the governor's office, and the county to go visit the Albuquerque version of this called the Gateway Center. It is just opened in August 1st. It's amazing that Albuquerque's ahead of us on this, but they are actually working on this, and it's a great model for us to look at. Thank you.
Michael Garcia.
One of the first things I'll do is begin to ensure that we're investing locally. How many folks remember the Pete's Place vote and how we lost interfaith? To me, that's unexcusable. We need to ensure that we're developing local solutions for our local problems. So that's one of the first things I'll do is begin to bring local stakeholders to the table to ensure that we're taking action quick and swiftly as we're developing the long-term plans for a one-stop facility. Now, in addition to that, we need to ensure that we're engaging the community. We have not engaged the community in this process. It's always been a top-down process where we're pushing pellet shelters into neighborhoods that have had no say in the process. So we need to ensure that community engagement is not only done, but it's authentic. And then lastly, we need to ensure that we're beginning to establish a long-term strategic plan, because a one-stop shop's not going to fix the challenges we're seeing. We need to ensure that we're having multiple approaches. That way we mitigate the issues once they start.
Thank you. Joanne Behill-Koppler.
There's one thing that was done really well, I thought, but then it fizzled out like most everything else, is the current administration did bring together a group of stakeholders within this city that have a piece of the pie in dealing with homelessness. And this group met, I was a city councilor at the time, and everybody around the table said, this is what we offer. This is what we think we need to do. This is how we identify. We know some of the homeless people personally. We know their needs. We know who's on drugs, who's not. We need a mental treatment, alcohol treatment facility. We all need to work together so that we can come up with solutions to have some kind of case management system. And we need facilities, a facility. The one-stop shopping is a good idea, where we offer mental health, nutrition, career counseling, housing, and we get these people off drugs and alcohol. And this would be something that people are already working on. Let's codify it, for lack of a better word. Let's make it some kind of a city committee where they report to us and on the money that they have.
Thank you. Oscar Rodriguez.
Yes, when I was assistant city manager in Austin, we often had 0 days, meaning that there were no people living on the streets. And it's a much bigger population, a much more complicated situation than we have here in Santa Fe. But we were able to achieve that by working with community groups. And because we understood that the city couldn't not just put it on its shoulder and solve the problem on its own. And that's why I would be advocating absolutely against the idea of this one-stop shop. I think the idea of concentrating poverty in one place is a bad idea, has always been a bad idea. Let's learn, at least from Pete's Place, that you put them all in one place and it just doesn't work. People aren't able to get out of that situation. And so what you need to do is just work with local groups, because they're the ones that provide the services. They're not necessarily going to move to where you want them to be, but you have to do a good job with that. And that was the biggest sin, by the way, with urban alchemy, where the city just took it on its own and stopped working with community groups.
All right, Ronald Trujillo.
Well, when I was on the council, me and Councilor Ortiz, we passed a resolution to purchase Pete's Place and remodel it. So it was at the time it was much needed. Unfortunately, now Pete's Place has outgrown its use right now, and we need to look for a new place. But one of the things that I want to do within the city, we talk about revamping city government. I want to put a department of homelessness in there. I want experts in there working on this all the time, because it has become a crisis in this community. There's not a place that you can go to here in Santa Fe where you don't see homeless people, and you need to make sure that they're taken care of. We're a compassionate city. We're not going to turn a blind eye to it. But we need to, like I said, we need to bring all the stakeholders to the table, and with the Department of Homelessness, we'll be able to do that. Having people work on this 24/7, so that we actually do something about the homelessness here, help those people, get them into housing, get them jobs. That is one of the top priorities of my administration. Is I want, like I said, I want this to be a city.
It's commonly agreed that infrastructure in Santa Fe needs repair and upgrading. What is your solution for the aging wastewater plant? 1 minute, please. Tara Nix, you're up.
Oh, this is fun. I made a whole video about it at fixourcitydifferent.org. I encourage you to watch all the videos so you can see how we have known for 15 years that wastewater treatment plant needed to go. I have an opponent who's chaired that board for years, who's never raised the alarm, who's never demanded that we get a new wastewater treatment plant, but the reality is we need one. I've talked to the private landowner behind. I think we can get the land behind and build a brand new one, restore the wetlands, stop dumping toxic waste, and restore the gray water resale that saves not only our potable water, but makes money for our wastewater treatment plant. It's an enterprise fund for a reason, and we should be maximizing every opportunity, putting water or black water reuse in, and making Lanel actually pay for some of the upgrades, because once that plume starts to hit our water sources, we're going to need a lot of help. So I got big ideas about that wastewater treatment plant, and I'm ready to enact them. Again, this 3 things in the first 30 days, and that's one of them. Thanks.
Letitia Montoya.
Yes, that is a big issue, because I tell everybody, when I first started this campaign 4 years ago, I've seen how much Santa Fe has developed housing throughout the city. And if you look across that over there's a silver big old round pipe that goes across the highway. That's where our sewer's going through for everybody that lives anywhere on this side of town. And my biggest thing is that when I saw how much it was going to cost us, $600 million, it's going to take 10 years to raise that. And a friend of mine who was in city council said they started a fund that when he was back in the 90s, that by today we should have a lot of money in there. Well, I don't know what's going on, but I know that they've been tapping into it. But the thing about it is we need to address that problem ASAP, because if it happens, who do you think is going to get affected first? The south side, and it'll work its way up north. So we got to hold these developers accountable and make them help us build it. If they're building here, they must help us.
Justin Green.
So as a county commissioner, this has actually been on our radar for about 2 years, because all of this flows downhill to La Cienega and to Cochiti. And this is an environmental disaster about to happen, and the city of Santa Fe is responsible for it. So this should be a priority on every city councilor's desk right now. So as mayor, this is one of my #1 priorities. And so today and over the last 2 years, I've been working with environmental engineers to understand how and what scope and what cost it would be. Today, I met with one of the largest environmental engineering companies in Santa Fe for an hour and a half and talked about water, wastewater, all over the county and all over the city. I have the skills as project management. This will be a priority. We will get this done. It's not going to be quick, but we're going to start the work in day one. Thank you.
Michael Garcia.
Well, as a current city councilor, it is a priority of mine, and I would say it's a priority of all of my other members of the governing body. This is why we've initiated a study on such matter. That way we can really understand what are the different levels. Should it be Band-Aid fixed? Should it be moderately fixed? Or should a brand new plant be built? I'm of the mindset a brand new plant needs to be built. Yes, it does come at a high cost, but we're not only developing this wastewater treatment plant for the present, we need to ensure we're developing it for future generations. I'm of the mindset that this is something that we're going to actually have to go to the voters for a bond. It's going to be put on in a ballot in front of y'all. Is this something that you want to invest in? My hope is that you would say yes, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't get fixed, then it is an environmental disaster, not only for users downstream, but for everybody in the city of Santa Fe, because then ultimately it becomes a water crisis. So we are taking action. And the next step is to ultimately make that final decision. What are the levels? And we need a new plan.
Joanne Vigil Coupler.
Currently, the city is paying some very large fines, or they're trying to get out of the fines that they have incurred from EPA and OSHA on this plant. So the money's going out the door somehow. And if we're looking to save money to or try to find the money for a new plant, then there's some of that money. Employees are working in filth, and that should be a number one thing to clean up, because we shouldn't have that. I think we need to also hire the best qualified to run these organizations, and that hasn't even happened. So that's another problem. We need to find good people that advise us properly, and that's something I'm very good at in my career. I've done that. We need to make a real plan. We need to decide if it's worth repairing or do we rebuild, and then we need to find the money. Either plan for it in our capital outlay, go to the legislature, pass a bond, maybe go to the New Mexico Finance Authority and see if there's something they can do for us there. We have another Finance Authority person that has worked here, so I worked there. Thank you.
Oscar Trujillo. My bad, I apologize. Oscar Rodriguez.
Entonces yo primero. So should I be elected mayor? This will be my 4th sewer treatment plant that I've dealt with. And the second one where I had to replace an old one and build a completely new one. And look, I advise you strongly, forget the idea of repairing the current one such that it's going to work. That's not going to happen. We're going to end up spending millions of dollars just to keep that limping plant going, and then we're going to spend some $300 million or more to build a new one. And to get there, we're going to have to issue bonds, not go out for a GO bond election. No, we're going to have to do it with a revenue bond, with revenue bonds paid for by the revenue that's generated from the system, and so in order for us to float the bonds. So we have to start increasing rates as we go, and actually that's currently the plan, and that's how you build a plant.
Ronald Trujillo.
I thought it'd be Ronald Rodriguez, but yeah. Okay, so real quick, yes, under my administration, this is one of the top priorities we need to do. We've been kicked, unfortunately, this administration has been kicking the can down the road for the last 8 years. It is not fair to the citizens of this community as to what's happening. We talk about, yes, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. We're allocating money. We're doing more studies. Enough with this studies. Enough with, the chit chat. Let's start getting stuff done. That is what I want to do. That is why I want to be mayor. I want to get stuff done. I got stuff done. I've passed bonds. We passed the parks bond. I know how to do that. I know how to work with our county commissioners. I know how to work with our state legislatures. The thing about it, I want to bring everybody to the table because it affects everybody. So everybody has to be at the table. We need to have the discussion. We need to find out where the funding is going. I'm on thing. Let's go to the Finance Authority. I know they got money. I know we can get a loan, and if we have to bond, we have to bond. That's the thing that we're telling you right now as citizens of Santa Fe. There's probably going to be a bond in any one of our administrations.
Jean Odine.
Well, it's great to get back into my field in environmental science and my training in environmental field with the military. So I've dealt with the water, wastewater, air, all aspects of it. I am honored to be associated with major infrastructure and development associates that have been dealing with cities all the way to countries. I don't want to sound like Oprah Winfrey, but with this funding, it's not you get a car, and then you get taxed later. This funding is coming, so it is really. It could be fun. We wouldn't have to do the bonds, the finance. This is philanthropic. It's going to be making that's alleviate a lot of the taxes for you as residents too. Am I done? Did you cut me off? Oh, okay. So anyway, I would defer with them as soon as I'm elected. It's kind of understanding what the needs are and what we can prioritize, but we would do a rollout as needed for the infrastructure for the entire city. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 5 is continuing on the issue of infrastructure. Residents complain loudly and frequently about the state of our roads and our parks. What is your plan as mayor to get ahead of the needed work and to finish it within a reasonable time frame? This is another 1 minute response question. And we're going to start off, Leticia Montoya, with you.
Okay, yeah, this is a really important question, is our roads. So I had talked to Teresa Ledger because I was interested in the lodger's tax, because the lodger's tax is a large chunk of cash, which is about 17 million last year, and they use that to advertise for Santa Fe. And I asked her, what do you think if we could use half of that for our roads? And we talked about the plan of what I needed to do, and I needed to take it up to get it approved. Well, the thing about it is, I told her, is like, people drive fly into Santa Fe, they use Airport Road, they come down Cerrillos, and they're using our roads, and then you see a lot of license plates that are from other cities, and I said, well, doesn't that include us to use a lodger's tax for the roads? She's like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. So let's start looking at that lodger's tax a little bit more to help us with the infrastructures, with the roads, and the parks will fit in because they do use our parks, so we could do.
Justin Green, you are next.
So our parks are disappointing and our roads are even worse. I own a delivery company. I'm on the roads all the time, and my best friend is the guy at Discount Tire. So I live this with you all the time. So we need to fix our roads urgently, and some of the South Side roads are the worst, and part of this is using some of the techniques that we have at Santa Fe County. So our roads at Santa Fe County have a strategic plan. We meet with our Public Works Department quarterly, each commissioner does, and we start to get an assessment of which roads, and we see once a year a full assessment on a 5-year plan. We need to know what roads need to be paved in a 5-year plan. To execute that plan, we go to the legislature every year and we ask for $10 million as just a maintenance fund. And we don't tell them which roads are going to be, but it's just a pool of money. So when we have emergencies, Santa Fe County has the money to pave our roads. That's something, a best practice that I would bring to the city. Thank you.
Michael Garcia, you're next.
So as the city council, I've already begun this work. How many folks remember the $25 million bond that was on the ballot last year? I was a sponsor of that. And so we'll begin to repair roads like Airport Road, Cerrillos Road, and inner roads like Calle Mejia. We have to continue this process. It's that saying of, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. And that's how we're going to repair our roads. Now, into our parks, that's been a major priority of mine. One thing I will guarantee is that I'm not going to pass a parks bond and let it be misspent. It's already happened once, not going to happen again. In addition, I've already worked on parks in regards. I've worked to renovate Regal Park, 2 new turf fields there. Worked to renovate Salvador Pettis Park, a new turf field there. My next project I'm working on is really working to renovate Franklin Miles Park. I included it in the recent municipal redevelopment area, which will allow for the city to receive the funds and really modernize that park. And that's the process. But it all starts with staffing. We need to ensure that we're appropriately staffing our city staff.
Okay. And Joanne V. Hill Koppler, you're next.
Is it on? Okay, it's on now. Start the time again. Just kidding. Okay, it doesn't have to be that way. You know, when we had this city in tip-top shape before, you didn't see any of this. Our streets were pretty good. Our parks were perfect, practically, and that's because we had good managers. We had a city manager and a mayor that knew what to do. They knew streets, parks, they're still going to be there. They're everywhere. So we need a plan, and we did plan. We got everything accomplished. There's a system I think the city used back not too long ago. I think it was called Amoresco or something. It helped you plan the maintenance of the buildings, the streets, the parks. But I believe you hire qualified people who manage those things, who plan for those things, who evaluate how it's going. What gets measured gets done. And there's no excuse for what our parks look like right now. There is no excuse. It's not rocket science. This has been around forever. I was going to suggest Ron Trujillo use the potholes to do his fishing derby.
Ronald Trujillo, you're next.
Well, I have a proven track record of fixing parks. We got the parks bond passed, and we revamped parks. unfortunately, over these last 8 years, this administration doesn't care about parks. They don't. You see it. Franklin Miles, Regal's looking good now. It is. But Franklin Miles, you go there, you'll find needles all there. They don't water the parks. They don't tend to them. And yes, they can say it's a shortage of we don't have enough workers. But that's inexcusable. Our parks are important, and our parks are important to our families, and they need to be fixed. And under my administration, we will. Now, as to roads, it's called, proactive, not reactive. We are going to be fixing roads 24/7, 365 days a year, not just the 5 days of pothole palooza like this administration likes to do, which is ridiculous. So, I worked for the New Mexico Department of Transportation. One of the hats I wore was a construction inspector for highways. I know how to fix things, and we will hire the right people to do those jobs, because that's what you need. You need professional engineers that understand roads.
Oscar Rodriguez, you're next.
No.
Yes.
Well, all right. You don't patch potholes, you prevent them. That's how you maintain streets. And by the way, it takes about 20 cents a square yard to prevent a pothole. But once it's open, it costs you about $20,000 to repair, to properly repair that. And so you just need to change your model about how you maintain streets by maintaining them and putting them on a regime where when they're new, you oil them, you gravel and seal them, you keep moving on, etc. And also you find ways to detect the potholes just before they're great big. And so it takes a great big effort. You don't just get out there and say, hey, start numbering the potholes or start numbering the streets, etc. You need to organize the effort for that to happen. And that takes also working with the union. And all of that takes skill. You need to know what you're doing. And again, you can't just get up and start telling people, let's start doing a better job. So it prevent things before they happen.
Jean O'Dean, you are next.
In making a purchase offer for the 64-acre redevelopment campus in Midtown, I attended the infrastructure and the plans for the roads. Very ingenious at how they plan that. This is beyond potholes. It's how they're ready for the 100-year flood. So the water would actually be in a system and could water the vegetation and plants. And ideally, that's how most of the roads should be designed and developed in the capital city. I wanted to move on to the parks. Key is this town has to be family friendly. I don't see a whole lot of young families here. We're mostly geared to the retirement and the tourist industry. And, being an educator, our next generation is key. We've got to invest in the parks as well as the sports complexes. We're going to a gig next time. And this funding we could do would be actually to help the complex. Thank you.
Tara Nix, you're the last person.
Yeah, I think it's really easy for elected leaders to take credit for getting funding that you voted for and you pay for. But my question is, why do we keep asking you to vote on funding for projects that we're never going to see come to fruition for years and years and years on end? We know that the stuff that we just talked about is literally 3 to 5 years away, even though the money's sitting there approved in a bond by you, right? We need to have the real conversation about how we're moving projects and why we're moving projects and whether or not we actually have the manpower to do it. So that it means having project meetings. Did you know that Guadalupe and all that construction, not only did they not talk to the businesses, they didn't talk to the guys and gals that actually won the RFPs. They never sat down around a table to strategize how to appropriately do that buildup and how to, mitigate the fallout. That's what you have to change. That's the kind of leadership you need. Someone who's willing to get into the minutia and ensure that we don't leave any stone unturned. That's what I do every day for the land office, and that's what I want to do for Santa Fe. Thanks.
What changes, if any, should be made regarding short-term rentals in Santa Fe? What policies do any of you support that would move short-term to long-term rentals to increase the supply of housing for renters? It's a 1-minute question, and Justin Green is up first.
question. So short-term rentals are a part of our tourism industry, and tourism drives a lot of Santa Fe, but tourism needs to work for Santa Fe. So we enjoy some of the events and we enjoy some of that, but we need to make tourism work for Santa Fe. So what does that mean? That means making short-term rentals work for Santa Fe. So short-term rentals can be part of the solution. We can use the gross receipts tax from it to support affordable housing, and that we can actually probably use some lodgers tax to improve our parks as well. So there are solutions with the short-term rental things. The next part is enforcement. It is estimated that there are 3 times more of short-term rentals out there than what are licensed. And so that's part of the problem. Outlawing it is not the answer. Regulating it properly and enforcing it is truly the aspect. We can also raise the rates that short-term rentals pay to get a license. Right now, it's $350. It could easily be $1,000, and $500 of it could be for the community.
Thank you. Michael Garcia?
One of the first things I'll do is make sure I disclose if I ever have a short-term rental. So I hope if you're elected, Mr. Green, you disclose how many short-term rentals you have. Now, we need to ensure that we look at the different buckets of short-term rentals we have. We have what's residential, which are 1,000 permits. Then we have a different bucket, which is business development districts, which is unlimited, and they're issued licenses. So one person can own 50 short-term rentals under the business development district. As mayor, I commit to ending that loophole. We should not allow for homes to be taken away from folks to boost tourism. I understand tourism is a major driver of our economy, but that should not come at the loss of homes for our residents. Now, in addition to that, enforcement is key. We need to ensure that this industry is being enforced. And right now, I'll admit, the city's really slacking. It needs to pick up the ball. It really needs to ensure that every...
Thank you. Joanne Vigil-Koppler's next.
Thank you. First, I support leaving the permitting at 1,000 permits. And if those are going to be shortened, then I think we need to take a look at who will get them and how are they being enforced. Right now, I don't believe the Planning and Land Use Department has enough staff to go out and properly enforce what's happening in our neighborhoods with these short-term rentals. We get a lot of complaints because, happy-go-lucky people come to Santa Fe and then they misbehave. We don't have the staff to go out there to do these things. The other thing that concerns me is that we don't have proper inspections. When a short-term rental is approved, nobody really goes out there to inspect. And sometimes they send someone who doesn't really have the credentials. The fire department stopped inspecting them because they didn't have the time to do that. So that's a really big problem. I do support taking, and I did introduce a measure when I was a city councilor, to take 0.5% of the gross receipts tax to put into the housing trust fund, and the mayor stopped it.
Thank you. Oscar Rodriguez.
One of the things that affects the short-term housing market also affects the second home market. And by the way, the second home market is much more impactful on housing space. 1 out of every 5 houses, 20% of the houses in Santa Fe every night goes empty, and they're second homes. And that's a bigger number than short-term rentals. And the reason that happens is because we are in a tax structure that incentivizes people buying homes and using them the way they are. In the surrounding states, in Texas, Colorado, and Arizona, they have a big homestead exemption, where if you live in your home, a big part of the value of your home is not taxed, and that only accrues to the people who live in the home. And that way, the people who don't live in the home and own it pay a greater share of that. I would be advocating for a significant change in that in state law.
Thank you. Ronald Trujillo.
Well, the first thing I'm doing day one is calling for a forensic audit of the entire city. And it's needed because we need to know what's working and what's not working in every department. This is across the city. And this is including land use. Land use isn't working for everybody here. We know it's not. When people are waiting, weeks, months for permits, it's unfair. It's unfair to our community. The thing about that is what we've been talking about too, is enforcement. The city doesn't have enough people to go and enforce. That is one of the things that I want to do. We are so top heavy at the city of Santa Fe. This administration is just director after director at 100,000. It's ridiculous. I want to take some of that money. I want to funnel it down. I want to hire people at the city of Santa Fe. That's one thing I promise you. My administration is going to hire people to work at the city of Santa Fe, because that's the important thing. That's why things aren't getting done here. We kept on hearing from the counselors, from everybody, we don't have enough staff. Well, why don't we have enough staff? Because you're not hiring them. I promise, under my administration, we will hire people to work in all departments.
Thank you. Jean Odine.
Well, I can share my personal experience of being with a short-term rental and with not being encoded. Before, when I lived here, I lived in houses in Upper Canyon Road, the Plaza, East Place. But when I returned after my decade of traveling, I couldn't afford these houses, so I did find a short-term rental. They refused to do a lease, refused to give my rent. I got a bill from Vinvo for dog food, to pay for dog food. The electricity was off. This person did not want to report her extra income. I ended up having to, 2 years ago during Indian Market, pay $200 to $250 a night at Motel 6 until I could find some affordable place to live. So it does need to be enforced. I've contacted the city, and it took them 6 months to even look into the case. So,
thank you, Taryn Nix.
When I say research your candidates and make sure you know what their real voting history is, because we have short-term rental and the policy that we do. Let Joanne introduce it. She did not end up voting for the final bill, but Michael did vote for the final bill. And I get so frustrated with politicians who create problems, then say they want to fix them, but then don't actually take any ownership in the problem that they made, and that they didn't do their homework and they misstepped bigly. It is, we are at capacity when it comes to short-term rentals. There does not need to be one more. There does need to be enforcement. Our hotels are hemorrhaging. They have never rebounded. And in part is because of, one, the people that are now coming in because of tourists and advertising are outdoor rec people instead of art people. We need to shift some money back to advertising for our festivals and our markets and Canyon Road and our art galleries. That's where 22% of our budget comes from, and that's where the priority needs to come back to. Thanks.
Thank you. Letitia Montoya.
Okay, so last night we had a round robin, and I learned that we have about 2,000 short rentals in our city. So the thing about it is that if you live in the historical area over there, you can have as many short-term rentals as you want. Otherwise, throughout Santa Fe, there's 1,000 permits. And the thing about it is we're not talking about the ones that are not reporting that they're using them as short-term rentals. So those are the people that they're talking about how we have to go after them to find them, because by them not contributing to this fund, that means they're not paying into the lodger's tax and the GRT. Also, on top of that, we talked about the second homes. We have 15% of second home owners that have houses here. So we need to see about how we could actually put a tax on them, because most of the time this is like their fourth home. On top of that, we get mansion tax.
Next question. How will the city ensure that it has enough water for new development? First, Michael Garcia, you're up on this one.
So one of the first actions I'll do is to reinitiate and ensure that there is enough water. There was a previous study that stated that we have enough water for the next 40 years. Now we've begun the process of looking at a return flow pipeline that would extend that out. I don't know if the city should really be investing nearly $30 million, which is probably $60 million now, in a project that might not even be feasible in 10 years. I mean, how many folks have seen the Rio Grande that's dried up? There might not even be water to pull. So we ultimately have to ensure that we're looking at it from a development perspective. And right now we're working on the future general plan. And that has to be tied directly to our water availability. So as mayor, my priority is to ensure that as development grows, we have to ensure that there is actual water for development. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, because without water, then we have no life. So that's my plan.
Joanne V. Hill-Koppler.
Well, I intend to find the most wonderful rain dancers you've ever seen. You know, if we could ensure that there's enough water, I would certainly be a total magician and be very indebted. But first of all, I think we need to be sure that the people who are advising the city council and the mayor are engineers, water solid people who understand how this all works. When I was a city councilor, I have to admit, some of the reports we got, I really didn't know how in the heck they were getting these numbers and how does that translate to liquid water. So it's an issue. So I would say let's hire people who know how this works and be sure we can trust what they're saying. Let's continue our efforts in recycling and conserving water. And let's make sure that we have multifamily units that are going up who don't have as strict water guidelines and usage. Make sure that we implement those. Those have been recommended by the Home Builders Association.
Oscar Rodriguez.
So here are the numbers. The city, I'm rounding, the city has about 30,000 acre feet of water rights. About 60% of that is surface water that diverts from the Chama, San Juan River area and pipes it down into Santa Fe. The other part is groundwater. And it uses currently about 15,000 acre feet, right? And this is tempered with assumptions for global warming, et cetera. All right, so we have about 15,000 acre feet, about twice more water than we're currently using. The question is, how are we going to use that water? Are we going to use it for $1 million homes? Or are we going to use it for workforce and just working family housing? Because if it goes the other way, if we do nothing, if we just keep doing what we're doing right now, we will just cement our presence as a expensive resort community where people are driving up the hill to work here. So I think that's the big question. We have water. The question is, are we going to do it?
Ronald Trujillo.
Well, we have the Buckman diversion. We have the Buckman wells. What I want to know is, this council and this administration has gone crazy building apartment complex. I mean, where are the affordable houses? That's what we all talked about. We were going to build affordable housing in the Northwest Quadrant, and over the last 8 years, forget about it. Let's start selling parcels off. Let's not build. That's the whole thing. We need to make sure that the water that we're getting is going to go to affordable housing for people here in Santa Fe. I just see so many apartment complexes. That water is going there. We need to stop. We need to put a moratorium right now and stop what's going on right now. We need to look back, like I said, with that forensic audit that I do. These are the issues that we're going to find out. We're going to find out what's working, what's not working, and water is going to be one of the top priorities because it is not only for us now, but for our future generations, Santa Vecinos.
Jean O'Dean.
Thank you. We all realize that we are in a water crisis. And I think we need to cross the border between the city and the county. I briefly met with the water commissioner in the county. And, we're not only addressing the shortage of water and overdevelopment, but the quality of water with what's happening with Los Alamos Labs and the toxic runoff with that's contaminating our soil and water. Now, they just did a settlement on the Rio Grande. It's between New Mexico, Texas, and the federal government. So we're looking at that. My engineers that are doing infrastructure and development are already doing satellite images of the water and balancing out between the development. The other key thing is with Governor Grisham and the DARPA, a combination of a quantum computer system in New Mexico, that is going to take a lot of water. So, as a systems thinker, you've got to think of all these elements. Thank you.
Tara Nix.
And like so much of City Hall's functions that are siloed, water is no different. They see it as separate pieces as opposed to a whole. We should look at waste, water, runoff, all things as under one umbrella, rivers. But they're all under different, managers right now. We need to bring them all under one house and really see it as a whole. We are not monitoring once that water hits city limits. We have no idea what's happening within city limits and what's happening with stormwater. We just know what happens when it comes in and we know what's coming out. And that's how we're getting our counts. We really don't really say, I don't like to say this, but we do need one study, and that is to really figure out what the water situation is and the infrastructure capacity, because we have never done that. And if we know we need to expand capacity, then we need to inherently install a one dig once policy. That was horrible. Anyway, to ensure that we're fixing all the infrastructure below when we're doing our roads or any kind of investments and upgrades. So, thank you.
Letitia?
Yes, I've been studying water. I went today to the Buckman Diverse Water Treatment Center, and I went to the one up the other treatment center up on the mountain. And the thing about it is their system is dynamic. I was very impressed, and I taste the water in both locations. Excellent. The thing about it is that water, this has been a problem for years, going back 30 years, if not longer, is that we're a high desert. Reality is that we had to start thinking about it then, but we can start now. The thing about it is that with these new developments, we need to come up with green products and green programs like they're doing on Alto Street. They're having it's a geothermal project that it's an all green project, and if they're doing that now, why can't we instill these into our houses and into the development stages of the houses when they're being built? Because we got to think about the future in our houses, and that's going to be number one.
Justin Green.
Fabulous. So as a county commissioner, part of one of the assignments that I have is on the Buckman Direct Diversion Board, and I'm this year the chair of that. So I have a lot of data about that. We're currently using between 75% and 80% of our water for the city is being used through Buckman Direct. The rest is either being used from Canyon Roads plant or from wells right now. The good news is that we've been recharging our aquifer by using more Buckman Direct for the last 3 years. So our aquifers are recharging. Also, as a county commissioner, I in my district up in the north has one of the largest water projects. It's the Amit Water Project. It is an $800 million project that has about 5,000 acre feet of water that could be used for city purposes in a temporary state until we get a new wastewater treatment plant, which is the ultimate solution, which would start to reuse our water. A return flow pipeline to the Rio Grande would unlock 3 times more water from the Buckman Direct. So if we have, I will stop here. Thank you.
Okay. Next question is the Santa Fe ready for an emergency? The city's recently departed emergency manager does not think so. What do you say? And we're going to start off with Joanne Vigil Koppler.
Well, I did read your article in the newspaper, so... I remember the former director, and I know that he's top notch, and I trust when he says the city's not ready, and I believe it, because how many of us have ever had any direct information or invited to a public meeting about how we are ready? And it's not just about wildfires, it's about our data, it's about our money, it's about all of that. And so, no, we're not ready. And so that would be something that I think definitely is very important. It's our survival, and it depends on good leaders to implement and make sure that we're ready. It depends on good leaders to make sure that we have the people in place, that we've hired the best, and that they take their job seriously. Again, what gets measured gets done. That's all it is. You have to pay attention. There's many, many things we've talked about tonight. Time to get going.
Oscar Rodriguez.
Do you think that a city that struggles to get its audits in on time is ready for anything? There is a saying, and by the way, I am a trained city manager, so I talk about a lot of these things like I know what I'm talking about. And actually, I've worked at all of these different areas and in many different environments. I know it. I can get way down in the weeds. I won't get in the weeds. But I can't do that. And I can tell you, a city that can't do simple things like keep up with its potholes, it's not reasonable to expect that they're going to deal with complicated issues like homelessness or emergency management planning, et cetera. And by the way, if there were plans, et cetera, we should worry that the city in the state that it's in right now would be able to execute that, would be able to figure that out. If you live on Canyon Road, be worried. Be worried that the city is not ready to handle an emergency that should come there, whether it's flooding or a wildfire. So no, we're not ready, and we're not ready deeply. We're not ready.
Ronald Trujillo.
I'll echo my friend Oscar Trujillo's words as well. So this city is not ready. It's not. When I was on the council, we were very proactive in thinning up on Upper Canyon Road, making sure, because our watershed is very important to us. You know, we didn't want to make sure that there's a fire there, that it's not detrimental to our water sources. Santa Fe Canyon, if a fire gets through there, this city's in trouble bad. You know, just look a few years ago, we had a major rainstorm. Cerrillos Road was flooded. You know, why is that? Well, again, no maintenance. You know, we're not maintaining our streets. We're not maintaining our roads. You know, again, it's about being proactive, not reactive. You know, that is the thing that I promised to this community, that my administration will be proactive. We'll make sure that we're ready. You know, we will bring in the right professionals to do the job, to assess things that need here in Santa Fe, so that we make sure that our whole city is safe from District 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Jean Odin.
When I was here last, I was working with some engineers and looking at fire, doing an emergency thing for the city. And one of the findings was the safest place to be is an adobe house. And it's more risking to get into the traffic and then get caught up. So with our 1,000 affordable adobe houses that were originally built by the indigenous people, that's what we plan to do. Now, as far as emergency, I think it's more than wildfires. We actually have concerns about Donald Trump, his ICE agents, and DHS coming here. It is a capital city. We are, you know, the Governor Grisham has released the National Guard in Albuquerque and Espanola. My contractors, all I can say is right now, the contractors for infrastructure and development are in good standing with USA military intelligence. So as the elected mayor, I would be privy before that happens.
Taryn Nix.
Yeah, I think we learned with the PNM power outages that we have no emergency readiness plan here in the city of Santa Fe. It's frightening. I think that we need to establish real partnerships with land managers around to actually do the things we need to do to stop the spread of wildfire, install the cameras so we actually have, you know, ahead advance warning. You know, we need to be working with our community groups to figure out where the how to shelter in place and where shelters can be, because we have none identified right now. If an emergency happened this moment right now, we would have nowhere to go. Sorry, that just throws us up. I also think that code enforcement's a big thing. Homes are losing insurance left and right in the county, and it's going to start coming into the city if we don't start enforcing code and preventing fires and doing fire mitigation work. We can do that, but we have to actually enforce our code, and that doesn't happen right now in the city. So we can help you, but we have to help ourselves first. Thanks.
Leticia Montoya.
Yes, when I went to the Santa Fe watershed, the facility where the water up in the mountains. Okay, so what I did is I asked them, when they go up there to check on the lakes, what do they see in the forest? And they're seeing overgrowth. So that's telling you that back in the day when I was a little girl, they used to let the citizens of Santa Fe go up into the mountains and thin it and clean it up. But then someone got involved, got mad about it because they thought we were harming the environment, but we were protecting where we live. Because when I was up there at the watershed, I asked the director, I said, "Are you afraid of a fire?" And he said, "Yes." And he exactly told me the same thing, is that they're not thinning the forest. And now with a new president, they have hardly anybody working up in the higher mountains with who they deal with on a regular basis. So yes, he says it's not going to happen today, but it may happen someday in the future.
Justin Green.
This is a real crisis for us because nobody wants to be caught with their pants down. And so Santa Fe County recognized that we had a deficit with our emergency management plans, and we reorganized Santa Fe County to bring an emergency manager into the county manager's office. So it wasn't just under fire and preparing for fire, but it actually started to work across the board. So what does that mean across the board? What's the most likely emergency that we are going to have? You start to do a threat assessment. What's the most likely? That's going to be cybersecurity. We could have at the city an attack on our computer systems and be, not that the city's working very well, but it would completely stop working. So maybe that's a, maybe that would work for us. But it is fire. It is fire. It is flood. It is cyber. It is a lot of different things, and you need to do a ranked, case-by-case plan that works across different agencies and works in partnership between the city, the county, and the state. The city and the county should be working together on an emergency management plan.
Michael Garcia.
I think it's quite unfortunate what happened to Mr. Williams. When somebody speaks up, they should not be given the determination of resign or you're going to be fired. That should be applauded. It should not only be applauded, but I mean, Brent should have got a raise for saying, hey, we suck here. We need to improve. That's quite unfortunate. One of the things Brian and I were working on was really redeveloping an alert system for the city of Santa Fe. With the most recent flooding, how many folks' homes got flooded? How many folks would have appreciated a text to them to say, hey, there's going to be an inch of rain coming in the next half hour, plan and prepare. Those are issues that Brian and I were working on because that was a foresight he had. Now, when it comes to fire mitigation, absolutely the city needs to step up. We are thinning our watershed, but what's not happening is residential homes aren't being thinned. So the city needs to collaborate with community organizations to ensure that we're helping residents protect their homes.
Thank you. We're almost out of time, so this last question is going to be 30 seconds, and it's very brief. Why are you the best choice for mayor, and who is your second choice? And Oscar Rodriguez goes first.
I'm happy to be the first one to address those questions, of course. I hope you've seen a trend here. There's a lot of things not working. And I would tell you, hire the person you think can solve those things, who has the skill to do those things. I'm the only one here who has actually run cities in New Mexico, elsewhere in the U.S., and internationally, et cetera. I'm trained in this. I have a master's degree from MIT in city planning. I know what I'm doing in this. So I just think that I'm the only choice for that. Now, who would be my There's good people here, there's good people here, and I'm better than them. But I'm better than them. And so, at the same time, I would ask you at the same time, vote for me first, and vote for them second.
Oh, good. Ronald Trujillo.
I think with my career with the NMDOT, my 12 years on the city council makes me very, very qualified to be the next mayor. You got to love this city. You got to care about this city if you want to be mayor. It's not about your egos. You need to know what's happening in the city. You have to be involved. And I am involved in this community. I've been a coach here, I've been a mentor here. You know, I was proud to say I was the Vargas for the 1994 Fiesta. So culturally, I'm very, very tied to this city. Now, as for number two, you've got 8 candidates. Ranked choice voting is important. This thing I'm going to tell you, when I ran for city council back in 2006, I won by 2 votes. So it's important that you vote. So make sure, because it's going to be important. So thank you.
Note that nobody is answering the question completely, but that's okay. Gino Dean.
Yes. In returning to Santa Fe after being away for a decade, I really have garnered this international trust funding to benefit Santa Fe as well as the state and Indian reservations. What I am asking my fellow candidates is to do a co-opetition model. Everyone has something to bring. If we can all bring our expertise together, the funding is there. So thank you.
Taryn Nix?
Yeah, I think the day-to-day management is important, but it's not the whole kit and caboodle. You need someone who can build coalitions broadly and quickly, and you need someone who can think 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road and guarantee that there's no unforced errors, too many lawsuits, too many problems. That's what I bring to the table. I am the triple threat. I can do all three, and I hope that you'll put me on your ballot. And, you know, I'll say, I'd love to make Oscar my chief of staff.
Oh. Letitia Montoya.
Okay, so I'm going to end it with the last question. The answer, the plan, there's no plan in place. And the reason I say that is that since I've been having my boots on the ground and being out and getting contracts with the city, I understand the process. And being the chief operation officer and the compliance officer of our company, I'm telling you right now, when it comes down to it, I can do the job and I know how to do it. And I've been working on this for 4 years. So I do have a plan in place and a team ready to go.
Thank you.
And I ask for your vote for Letitia Montoya.
Good. Justin Green?
Great, thank you. I feel that I'm the best candidate right now because I have, to use somebody else's expression, the triple threat. One, as an architect and land use professional, I understand our housing issue. It is near and dear to me, and I know it backwards and forwards. And so we have a general plan coming. I know how to analyze that and make sure that we have a great product that comes out and lays out the future for Santa Fe. As a small business owner, I know how to get stuff done and make sure that we pivot on a moment. I know how to do budgets and so on. Oh, you want me to just go there. So, and then as elected official, I also represent diverse communities that are not just me. Who would I vote for? Oh, you're cutting me off. I can't answer the question. I'm sorry. I got another 20 seconds?
No, 30.
What's my answer? So everyone here has their heart in the right place. I really think that you should look at everybody closely and understand who's going to be the most impactful for our community right now. Thank you.
All right. Michael Garcia.
Well, I think I'm the best candidate because ultimately I'm not somebody who's afraid to be held accountable. I'm not somebody who's going to think of the good old days of when we were a town of 50,000 people. Let's be real, we're double that right now. Our challenges are a city of 100,000 people, not the good old days when it was a much smaller community. Now, when it comes to how we get that done, I'm going to need your help. That's why I'm going to build what I call a kitchen cabinet. It's going to be a group of advisors that are made up of the community, such as yourself, that not only help to ensure your voice is heard, but hold me accountable. Now, in regards to who I'm voting for my second vote, it's an unidentified write-in candidate.
All right. And we end with Joanne Vigil-Koppler.
Thank you. It's been great to be here. And I'll tell you, I'm the best candidate because I have the most well-rounded managerial experience. The mayor's job now is not just ribbon cutting. It is someone who brings to the table real knowledge about how cities work, who knows how the judiciary works, who knows how the legislature works. And I've done all of those. And that is what it takes for a city to be run smoothly to solve the problems that we have today. They involve all three branches of government. I'm your best choice. I asked for your vote, and I will never say who I'm going to vote for second. Thank you.
Okay. And that's our forum, folks. Thank you for participating, coming out and watching, and voting starts October 7th.